The stars looked different from this part of the galaxy. Captain Tom Davis stood on the observation deck of the Pathfinder *, Earth's finest diplomatic vessel, watching as they approached the massive orbital palace of the Stellar Empire. His heart beat faster. This was humanity's big moment. "Captain, we are cleared for docking," said his pilot through the ship's comm system. "Thank you, James. Proceed carefully," Tom replied, adjusting his blue uniform. Tom was not the biggest or strongest human. He was chosen for his words, not his muscles. Earth's leaders had picked him because he could talk his way through problems. That skill would be tested today as humans met the powerful Lumina species for the first time. The Lumina ruled the Stellar Empire for thousands of years. They were advanced beyond human understanding. Their ships could cross the galaxy in days while human vessels took months. Their weapons could destroy planets. Their medicine could cure almost any disease. And now, for some reason, they wanted to talk to humans. "Remember," Tom told his small team of 5 as they gathered near the airlock, "we are representing all of Earth. The Lumina think we're weak because we're new to space travel. We need to show them that humans have value." The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Light poured in, so bright that Tom had to shield his eyes. When his vision cleared, he saw them, the Lumina. They were tall, nearly 7 feet, with skin that glowed with soft blue light. Their bodies were thin but strong-looking. Their faces had 4 eyes instead of 2, all shining with intelligence. They wore flowing robes made of material that seemed to shift colors as they moved. "Welcome to the heart of stars, humans of Earth," said the tallest Lumina in perfect English. "I am High Minister Kell. The Emperor awaits you in the Grand Hall." Tom and his team followed Kell through hallways built of crystal and metal. The walls themselves seemed alive, changing colors and patterns. Tom tried to hide his amazement, but it was hard. Humans had nothing like this. The Grand Hall took Tom's breath away. It was huge, with a ceiling that showed the stars outside as if there was no roof at all. 100 Lumina stood in perfect rows, all glowing with different colors. At the far end sat the Emperor on a floating throne. "Approach, human ambassador," the Emperor's voice boomed. Tom walked forward, feeling small and primitive. The Emperor was old, his skin glowing with a deep purple light. 4 royal guards stood nearby, holding weapons Tom couldn't understand. "Earth is young," said the Emperor, "but we have watched your progress. Your species adapts quickly. This interests us." Tom bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Highness. We are honored by your attention. There is potential in your kind." The Emperor continued. "The Stellar Empire seeks new allies against growing threats." As the Emperor spoke, Tom noticed someone watching him from the side of the throne. A female Lumina, smaller than the others, with skin that glowed with a soft pink light. She wore a silver crown. She stared at Tom with unusual interest. "My daughter, Princess Lyra," the Emperor said, noticing Tom's gaze. Princess Lyra stepped forward. Unlike the other Lumina, who looked at humans with polite distance, she examined Tom with open curiosity. "I have studied your species," she said, her voice musical. "You solve problems differently than we do." "We try our best with what we have, Your Highness," Tom answered. Something passed between them, a moment of understanding. The princess smiled, a very human gesture that surprised Tom. "The diplomatic meetings will begin tomorrow," the Emperor announced. "For now, rest. You have traveled far." As Tom and his team were led to their quarters, he felt Princess Lyra's eyes following him. He didn't understand why a royal from an advanced alien civilization would find a simple human interesting. He would soon find out. 3 days passed with boring meetings. Tom sat through talks about trade, space borders, and technology sharing. The Lumina were polite but treated humans like children who had just learned to walk. "Your fusion engines are interesting," said one Lumina scientist, clearly trying to be nice about Earth's primitive technology. Tom kept his smile in place. His job was to build bridges, not get angry when aliens looked down on humans. On the fourth morning, Tom was eating breakfast alone when a royal guard entered his quarters. "Captain Davis, Princess Lyra requests your presence." Now, Tom followed the guard through twisting hallways he hadn't seen before. They entered a garden where plants glowed like the lumina themselves. Floating lights drifted through the air like tiny stars. Princess Lyra stood by a small pool, her pink glow reflecting in the water. Without her formal clothes, she looked younger. "Leave us," she told the guard, who bowed and left. Tom stood straight. "Your Highness, how can I help you?" "You can stop calling me Your Highness when we're alone," she said with a smile. "And you can sit down." Tom sat on a bench made of the same crystal-like material as everything else in the palace. Lyra sat beside him. "I have watched humans for some time," she said. "Your people are different." "Different bad or different good?" Tom asked. "Just different. Lumina think in straight lines. Each problem has one best answer. But humans," she waved her hand, making patterns in the air. "You think in circles and jumps. You find paths no Lumina would see." Tom nodded. "We call it creativity. When you don't have the strongest ships or best weapons, you learn to think around problems." Lyra's 4 eyes fixed on him. "We need that thinking now." Her glow dimmed slightly, and Tom realized she was worried. "What's wrong?" "The Stellar Empire is in danger," she said, voice low. "Have you heard of the Void Dominion?" Tom had read reports. A military power from the galaxy's outer rim. Very aggressive. "They've declared war on us," Lyra said. "We fought them back so far, but they adapt to our weapons quickly." "I'm sorry, but what does this have to do with me?" "Earth can't match your military power." Lyra stood and walked to a wall. She touched it, and the wall became transparent, showing the stars. "There is an old Lumina prophecy," she said. "It speaks of a time when our logical thinking would fail us, when a younger species would show us a new path." Tom frowned. "You believe humans are this species?" "I do. My father doesn't. He thinks humans are too primitive to help." She turned to face him. "I think that's exactly why you can help. I don't understand. The Void Dominion expects Lumina responses. They predict what we will do because we always choose the most logical path. But humans," her glow brightened with excitement, "humans are unpredictable." Tom stood up. "Are you asking for Earth's military help?" "No," Lyra said. "I'm asking for you." "Me?" Tom was shocked. "Why not ask one of your warriors or scientists?" "Because they think like Lumina," she replied. "I need someone who thinks differently, someone who can see paths we can't." "But I'm just a diplomat, not a warrior or a genius." Lyra stepped closer. Tom noticed her glow pulsed with her emotions. "You are human. Your species turns weaknesses into strengths. You find ways to succeed when you should fail." Her 4 eyes looked directly into his too. "Will you help me, Tom Davis? The future of the Stellar Empire may depend on it." Tom's mind raced. This wasn't what he expected when he came here. He wasn't a hero from stories, just a man doing his job. "What exactly would I have to do?" he asked. Lyra's glow brightened. "First, you must pass a test, to show others what I already see in you." Tom took a deep breath. "When do we start?" "Now," said Lyra. "This is War Master Trill," Princess Lyra said. "He has won 100 battles for the Stellar Empire." Tom looked up at the massive Lumina warrior. Trill stood 8 feet tall, his skin glowing deep red. Unlike the other Lumina, his body was thick with muscle. The War Master looked down at Tom with all 4 eyes narrowed. "This is your human champion?" Trill asked Lyra. "He is small." They stood in a large round room with a floor that shifted and changed like water. Other Lumina watched from above, including some of the Emperor's advisors. News of Lyra's interest in the human had spread quickly. "Size isn't everything," Tom said, trying to sound confident. Trill laughed. "The test is simple. Human. Defeat me. Tom's heart sank. He was fit for a human, but against this alien giant, impossible. Lyra touched Tom's arm. Remember, this is not about strength. A clear barrier rose around the fighting area. Trill drew a weapon like a staff that glowed with energy at both ends. He tossed Tom a similar but smaller weapon. "Begin," called one of the royal advisors. Trill moved with shocking speed for his size. Tom barely dodged the first swing, feeling the energy buzz past his face. The second swing caught his leg, sending pain shooting up his body. Tom stumbled back. Fighting directly was suicide. He needed to think differently. He studied the floor as he dodged another attack. It responded to pressure, changing shape. An idea formed. "You fight well, for a human," Trill said, advancing. Tom backed away, watching the floor shift under Trill's feet. Every step the War Master took left a brief depression before the floor reset. "In my culture," Tom said, "we have a saying. Work smarter, not harder." Tom stopped running. Instead, he began jumping in place, then moving in a circle around Trill. The floor responded, rippling outward. The War Master looked confused, then angry. "Stand and fight," Trill demanded. "I am fighting," Tom replied, continuing his strange dance. The floor's ripples grew stronger as Tom timed his jumps to match the floor's natural bounce. He was creating a wave pattern, just like a child jumping on a trampoline. Trill charged forward, but as he did, Tom made one final hard jump and rolled away. The floor wave peaked under Trill's feet, throwing the warrior off balance. He stumbled forward, his momentum carrying him into the barrier. Tom didn't waste the opportunity. He swept his weapon low, hitting Trill behind the knees. The War Master fell hard. Before he could recover, Tom pressed his weapon to Trill's neck. The room fell silent. "Match complete," announced the advisor. "The human wins." Whispers spread among the watching Lumina. Tom offered Trill a hand up, which the War Master ignored as he stood. "You changed the ground," Trill said. "This is not proper combat." "No," Lyra stepped forward, her glow bright with excitement. "This is exactly what I wanted to show you all. Humans find solutions where we see none." As they left the arena, an alarm suddenly blared throughout the palace. Guards rushed past them. "What's happening?" Tom asked. "Intruders," said a guard. "Void Dominion spies." Two dark figures appeared at the end of the hallway, carrying weapons Tom had never seen before. One fired, hitting a guard who fell instantly. "Princess, run," yelled another guard, pushing Lyra toward a side door. But more intruders appeared from that direction, cutting off their escape. They were trapped. "These doors," Tom asked quickly, pointing to the walls. "What controls them?" "Light panels," Lyra said, pointing to small glowing squares. Tom looked around, spotting water pipes running along the ceiling for the garden sprinklers. He fired his weapon at the pipes. Water sprayed everywhere, shorting out the light panels. All the doors in the hall slid open at once, confusing the attackers. "This way." Tom grabbed Lyra's hand and pulled her through the chaos. Behind them, he heard the whine of energy weapons. But it was too late. They had escaped. Later, in a secure room, Lyra looked at Tom with new respect. "You saved my life." Tom shrugged. "I just made a mess and used the confusion." "Exactly," Lyra said. "No Lumina would think to break something to fix a problem." She touched his hand. "I was right about you. The complete prophecy is not here," Princess Lyra told Tom the next morning. "It's kept in the ancient archives on the moon of Eldar." They sat in a small meeting room with one other Lumina, a large guard named Grek. After the attack, the Emperor had assigned Grek to protect his daughter at all times. "Why keep it so far away?" Tom asked. "The archives contain our oldest knowledge," Lyra explained. "Too dangerous to keep in one place." Grek frowned, his yellow glow pulsing with doubt. "Princess, I must object to this plan. Taking the human off-world is risky." "The human has a name," Tom said. And the human just saved your princess yesterday. Greg's glow darkened. One lucky moment doesn't make you a hero, human. Enough, Lyra said firmly. My father has approved this mission. We leave in 1 hour. The ship they took was small but elegant. Unlike the bulky human ships, Lumina vessels were smooth and flowed like liquid metal. Inside, Tom was surprised to find it felt almost like a luxury yacht rather than a military craft. This is a royal vessel, Lyra explained as they settled into comfortable seats, used only by the imperial family. The journey to Eldar's moon took less than an Earth day. Tom spent most of the time learning about Lumina history from Lyra. The more he learned, the more he realized how young humanity was compared to this ancient species. We have been among the stars for 50,000 years, Lyra said. Your people only left Earth 100 years ago. That's why I still don't understand why you need my help, Tom said. Before Lyra could answer, the ship shuddered violently. We're under attack, Greg shouted from the control room. Tom and Lyra rushed to join him. Through the view screen, Tom saw 3 black ships firing at them. Their design was jagged and sharp, completely different from Lumina ships. Void Dominion scouts, Greg said, his hands flying over the controls. They must have followed us from the palace. The royal ship shook again as another blast hit them. Can we outrun them? Lyra asked. No. Our engine was damaged in the first hit, Greg replied. And our weapons are failing. Something is interfering with our systems. The moon, Lyra said. Its radiation affects advanced technology. That's why the archives are kept there, natural protection. If it affects your ship, won't it affect theirs too? Tom asked. Yes, but they know this. They'll land and pursue us on foot, Greg said. Then we land first, Tom decided. Get as close to the archives as possible. The landing was rough. Their ship scraped across rocky ground before coming to a stop in a valley surrounded by tall, strange rock formations. The 3 jumped out just before sparks began shooting from the control panels. Our comms are dead, Greg said, checking his equipment, and the defense barriers won't activate. Tom looked around, assessing their situation. The moon's surface was rocky and bare, with a thin atmosphere that made the sky look purple. In the distance, he could see a structure built into the side of a mountain. The archives? He asked, pointing. Lyra nodded. Yes. About 5 miles from here. The void ships will land soon, Greg warned. We should move quickly. As they began walking, Tom picked up a loose metal rod from their damaged ship. Greg noticed and laughed. What will you do with that primitive weapon? The Void soldiers have plasma cutters. If advanced tech doesn't work well here, Tom replied. Sometimes primitive is better. They had walked for an hour when they heard a crash behind them. Looking back, they saw the Void ships landing. We need to move faster, Lyra said, her glow pulsing with worry. Tom studied the terrain. No. They'll catch us in the open. We need to use the environment. He pointed to the strange rock formations. Let's hide there and let them pass. Then we can circle back to the archives. Greg looked doubtful. A direct route is more logical. And more predictable, Tom countered. They'll expect that. After a moment, Lyra nodded. We followed Tom's plan. As they slipped between the rocks, Tom felt the weight of their trust on his shoulders. He hoped human thinking would be enough to get them safely to the archives, and the full prophecy that might save the Stellar Empire. Tom's plan worked. The Void soldiers marched past their hiding spot, heading straight toward the archives. Once the enemies were out of sight, Tom led Lyra and Greg on a different path through the rocky landscape. How did you know they wouldn't search these formations? Greg asked, his yellow glow dimmer in the growing darkness. I didn't, Tom admitted, but people usually take the easiest path. I bet on them being in a hurry. 2 hours later, they reached the archives from the backside. The building was ancient, carved directly into the mountain. Strange symbols covered its stone walls. There's a hidden entrance here, Lyra said, touching the wall in a pattern. A section of stone slid open. Inside, the archives were lit by the same bioluminescent light that the lumina themselves gave off. Tall shelves filled with crystal data storage devices lined the walls. In the center stood a large circular platform. The prophecy is stored in the oldest section, Lyra whispered. They moved quietly through the archives. Tom noticed the air was stale, as if no one had been there for years. The Void soldiers will find the main entrance soon, Greg warned. Then we must hurry, Lyra replied. They reached a sealed door at the back of the archives. Lyra placed her hand on it, and her pink glow seemed to flow into the door. It opened slowly. Inside was a small room with a single pedestal. On it sat a crystal larger than the others, glowing with swirling colors. The first crystal, Lyra said with awe, recorded by our ancestors when they first gained consciousness. She placed her hands on the crystal. It lit up brightly, projecting images into the air. Strange symbols appeared, then translated themselves into words Tom could understand. The prophecy speaks of a dimensional anomaly, Lyra read, a tear in space created by those who dwell in darkness. It will grow until it consumes all stars. The Void Dominion, Greg growled. It says the anomaly cannot be closed by logical approaches, Lyra continued. Only through chaotic resonance. Tom stepped closer. What does that mean? Before Lyra could answer, an explosion shook the archives. Dust fell from the ceiling. They're here, Greg said, drawing his weapon. Lyra quickly copied the prophecy data to a smaller crystal. We must get this back to my father. Another explosion, closer this time. The shelves in the outer room began to topple. There's no way out, Greg said. We're trapped. Tom looked around the room, noticed a small vent in the ceiling. Up there, it might lead outside. Too small for me, Greg said. I'll go first, Tom offered. Help me up. With Greg's boost, Tom pulled himself into the vent. It was tight, but he could move. Lyra next, he called down. After Lyra was safely in the vent, they'd reach down together to pull Greg up. But he was too large. Go, Greg ordered. I'll hold them off. We won't leave you, Lyra insisted. It's the logical choice, Princess. The prophecy must reach the Emperor. Another explosion rocked the archives. Tom could hear voices getting closer. Greg, set your weapon to overload, Tom suggested. When they break through, it will create a bigger explosion. That might collapse the entrance and give you time to find another way out. Greg's glow brightened with surprise. That's not a bad idea, human. They left Greg behind and crawled through the dusty vent. It sloped upward for a long time before finally opening onto the surface, far from the main entrance. As they emerged, a massive explosion shook the ground. Part of the mountain collapsed over the archive entrance. Will Greg make it? Tom asked. If anyone can, it's him, Lyra said, though her glow dimmed with worry. They found shelter in a small cave as night fell on the moon. Lyra activated the crystal, studying the prophecy again. Tom, look at this, she said. The anomaly resonates at specific frequencies. Tom studied the patterns in the crystal. They reminded him of something. It's like music, he realized suddenly. These patterns are like harmonic waves, like sound. Lyra's glow brightened. Sound. We Lumina never thought to apply audio principles to a space anomaly. On Earth, we use sound waves to break things sometimes, like kidney stones in medicine, or glass with high notes. Could we use sound to break the anomaly? Lyra wondered. As they talked more, their ideas built on each other. For once, Lyra didn't ask why she had chosen Tom. Now she knew. A rescue ship found Tom and Lyra the next day. To their surprise, Greg was on board, wounded but alive. The explosion worked, Greg told Tom with newfound respect. It blocked the Void soldiers long enough for me to find another exit. As they returned to the Stellar Empire's capital, Lyra and Tom worked together to develop their sound wave theory. Using the prophecy data and Tom's knowledge of Earth music, they created a plan to counteract the dimensional anomaly. If we broadcast these exact frequencies, Tom explained, we might be able to close the tear in space. Lyra's glow brightened with excitement. This could work. We need to tell my father right away. When they landed at the palace, however, something felt wrong. There were fewer guards than usual, and those present watched them with strange looks. Something's happened, Greg said quietly, his hand moving to his weapon. They were met in the main hall by Prince Orion, Lyra's cousin. His blue glow was cold and steady as he approached with 6 royal guards. "Cousin," Lyra greeted him. "Where is my father?" "The Emperor is resting," Orion replied. "He has had a difficult time since you left on your adventure." Tom noticed how Orion's eyes lingered on him with disgust. "We found the complete prophecy," Lyra said, "and a possible solution to the anomaly." "How wonderful," Orion smiled, but his glow didn't change. "You must be tired. Guards, escort Princess Lyra to her chambers to rest. The human will be returned to his ship." "No," Lyra stepped closer to Tom. "We need to present our findings together." "I insist," Orion said, his voice harder now. The guards moved forward. Greg stepped between them and the princess. "What is the meaning of this, Prince Orion?" "The meaning?" Orion laughed. "The meaning is that while you were chasing ancient fairy tales, I was securing our empire's future." "What have you done?" Lyra asked, her glow pulsing with alarm. "What you and your father wouldn't do," Orion replied. "I've made a deal with the Void Dominion. They will spare our core worlds in exchange for certain concessions." "You betrayed us," Lyra whispered. "I saved us," Orion snapped, "instead of placing our fate in the hands of primitive humans." Tom realized the truth. "You tipped off the Void Dominion about our trip to the archives." "Of course," Orion nodded. "They should have killed you there. Now I must handle it myself." He signaled to the guards. "Take them to the holding cells. The human first." Guards grabbed Tom. Greg fought back, but was quickly overwhelmed by superior numbers. Lyra tried to reach Tom but was held back. "The anomaly will destroy everything," she shouted at Orion. "Not just our enemies." "That's what they want you to believe," Orion replied. "The Void leaders have assured me they can control it." As Tom was dragged away, he caught one last glimpse of Lyra. Her eyes met his, and in that moment, he saw her determination. The cell they put Tom in was small but comfortable, typical of the Lumina's elegant design. Even their prisons were beautiful. He examined the door, a seamless part of the wall when closed, controlled by light panels like everything else in the palace. Tom smiled to himself. Light panels meant electricity. Electricity meant circuits. Circuits could be shorted. He removed a metal button from his uniform and began working on the water dispenser in the corner of the cell. 2 hours later, the door slid open with a soft hiss. Tom peeked out, saw no guards, and slipped into the hallway. He needed to find Lyra and Greg. As he moved quietly through the palace, Tom heard alarms begin to sound. A voice announced, "Warning. Void Dominion fleet approaching. All citizens to shelter areas." Tom froze. The invasion had begun. Then, from a nearby room, he heard Lyra's voice. He pressed his ear to the door. "You've doomed us all," she was saying. "The anomaly isn't a weapon, Father. It's something worse." Tom realized she was speaking to the Emperor himself. Tom pushed open the door. Inside, Lyra stood facing her father, the Emperor, whose purple glow had dimmed with age and worry. Both turned in surprise. "Tom." Lyra moved quickly to his side. "How did you escape?" "Water and electricity don't mix well," Tom said with a small smile. "Where's Greg?" "Already freed," the Emperor said, his voice tired. "He's organizing our remaining loyal guards." Through the window, Tom could see the Void Dominion fleet hanging in space above the capital. Their ships were black against the stars, jagged like broken glass. "Your Majesty," Tom bowed slightly. "The prophecy was right. We found a solution to the anomaly." The Emperor's glow pulsed with doubt. "So my daughter says. But what can sound waves do against such power?" "Father," Lyra pleaded, "you must listen. The anomaly isn't just a weapon. It's growing out of control. Soon it will consume everything, even the Void Dominion themselves." "It's true," Tom added. "They don't realize what they've created. But we can stop it if we act now." A massive explosion shook the palace. The attack had begun. "It's too late," the Emperor said. "Orion has opened our defense shields. The Void Dominion will be on the ground within minutes." "Then we fight," Tom said firmly. The Emperor looked at Tom with all four eyes. "Why do you care what happens to our people, human? You could return to your ship, escape." "Because that's not who we are," Tom replied. "Humans don't abandon allies." Grek burst into the room. "Your Majesty, we've secured the command center. But there's a problem. The anomaly is growing faster than expected. Look." He activated a display showing a dark tear in space near the system's sun. It was pulsing, sending out waves of energy that distorted everything around it. "The Void Dominion has lost control of it," Lyra said, just as the prophecy warned. Tom studied the display. "We need to broadcast our counter-frequency directly into the anomaly. But we'd need to get close." "The Royal Flagship has the strongest transmitters," Grek suggested. "And I can pilot it," Lyra added. The Emperor shook his head. "It would be a one-way journey. The ship would be destroyed." "I'll go," Tom volunteered. "I can set the frequencies and activate the transmission." "No," Lyra grabbed his arm. "I won't let you sacrifice yourself." Another explosion rocked the palace. They had no time left. "Your Majesty," Tom faced the Emperor, "do you trust me?" After a long moment, the Emperor nodded. "You have earned that much, human." They raced to the royal hangar where the flagship waited. As they prepared the sound frequency data, Void troops entered the palace. Grek and his loyal guards held them back long enough for the ship to launch. As they approached the anomaly, Tom felt strangely calm. The tear in space was beautiful in a terrifying way, swirling with colors no human had ever seen before. "The transmitter is ready," Lyra said, "but someone must stay to adjust the frequencies manually. The radiation will kill them." "That's why I'm staying," Tom said quietly. "You need to go. Your people need you." "Tom, no." "Lyra." He took her hands. "This is what humans do. We protect what matters to us." Tears glowed like liquid light on her cheeks. "Of all beings, why did you pick me?" she whispered. Tom smiled. "I didn't. You picked me, remember? Now I know why." He gently pushed her toward the escape pod. "The full prophecy," he said. "What did it really say about humans?" As the pod door closed between them, Lyra answered. "It said humans' greatest strength isn't their adaptability or creativity. It's their capacity to care enough about others to sacrifice themselves." Tom watched the escape pod launch safely away. Then he turned to the controls and began broadcasting the sound frequencies toward the heart of the anomaly. The ship shuddered as the anomaly's energy battered it, but the frequencies worked. The tear began to close, pulling the ship with it. In his final moments, Tom thought of Earth, of the Lumina, and of Lyra. He had helped save 2 civilizations. Not bad for a simple human diplomat.